It's the end of 2023, and I guess this is a good a time as any to recap and to, well, to ponder upon the things that happened last year. What I mean by that is, well, 2023 has been a good year for me, but not on the YouTube front. I guess what I'm trying to say is that my reviews, gadgets, and hoarding, the tech hoarding that I tried to make a splash with, hasn't generated too much interest, and that's just being that's being conservative. Actually, it was dreadful. At the amount of videos I have uploaded, I expected far more interest than it has accomplished. Well, my channel anyway. I'm getting long in the tooth here, but what I mean to say is that, I guess I'm going to switch the style of my channel and the approach, and maybe I'll upload fewer videos, but I'll try to make them more significant. To do that, however, I guess I need some closure. I guess I need to put on paper what I have hoarded in terms of gadgets, how much money I have spent on them, and whether it was worth it or not financially, from a hobby standpoint, or any way you deem fit to analyze. So, without any further ado, I have a box here which contains, well, all my useless gadgets from the past, and I'll try to put them on the table while I'm speaking to you by category. Now, bear in mind this video might take some time, as I have quite a lot of things here, and I'll try to sort them, well, by category, and to give you a quick review of what exactly I have paid for them, what they mean to me, were they valuable in any way, shape or form, what my plans are for them. This might take a while. Yeah, I believe that is the whole amount of gadgets that I deem to be fit for, well, my collection. And I'm going to try to sort them out by, by category, and for that I will need to, to push them aside a bit and to try to, film with a second camera, which will be represented by my trusty S20, Samsung Galaxy S20. So then, let's start with the genesis of this, obsession, madness, boredom, activity, I don't know. You be the judge of that. And by that I mean the Lumix cameras. So I had a Lumix FX7 at some point in my life. That was actually my first Panasonic Lumix camera, and I paid for that about 50 euro, let's call it 70 euros in today's money. And it was a very old camera in terms of technology. It was obsolete even by the time I got it, but I was very impressed with the build quality and the attention to detail when it comes to construction of the camera itself. Naturally, I had to replace it at some point in my life, and I did that by purchasing, most importantly, the Lumix TZ7, of which I own actually 3 examples here. Now for one of these I paid about 50 euros, and subsequently I got another another one for parts. Long story short, the lens on my Lumix, the cover on the lens had some issues, but you can check out my videos if you want to see the in-depth story. Anyway, I purchased another one for parts, but I wasn't happy with the aesthetic shape of the aesthetic degree to which the camera presented itself. So actually, after purchasing the initial one with about 50 euros, which was quite low at the time, let's call it again 70 euros by today's money, and another one for parts about 2 years ago for 10 or 12 euros, which makes a total of about 150 euros. Again, I found a pristine example of this model for about 20 euros, which came in its original packaging, and I just couldn't resist. So all in all, I would say I spent about 100 euros. Let's not adjust for inflation just now. Let's call it an even 100 euros for these three cameras. Now, additionally, I'll put these aside as we've gone through them. Additionally, I have purchased this Lumix TZ22 in 2018 or so. I don't remember exactly. Now, this was it was expensive at the time, but again, it was pristine, and it was I figured it would be a daily sort of speaking, but it didn't turn out to be that way. Again, build quality is extremely good for this type of camera and this budget, but the overall performance is just laughable. Was laughable actually even in 2018, never mind in 2023. So it's just a conversation starter, a collection item. Additionally, I purchased this camera, this minimalistic and petite Lumix ZX1 for my wife in 2013 or so. At the time I was using the TZ7, and this one was actually brand new with a box, but it was discounted at a physical store. So at that time I paid around 85 to 90 euros for this camera. So that in total brings us to about 300 euros for the Lumix cameras, which I have purchased in the past. I apologize for the slightly anachronistic manner in which I'm presenting these gadgets, but I think it's important to show you what they actually represent and their subsequent value rather than their story. If you want to see more on the story itself, I have an in-depth video on each and every item on this table, so you can browse at ease on them, though I highly doubt that you will, because really there's not much interest in these types of clips. Nevertheless, moving along. Now these are my trusty BlackBerry phones. Actually, this one is mine. Was mine. This is the 8520 Curve. And this one was my wife's phone, and this one was mine. Now we purchased these for about 30 euros a pop, which was quite low at the time, and they were brand new, but they were rather obsolete, so they were just, they were good technology, but not something great, not something groundbreaking. So for those who are following, by now I have reached about 360 euros worth of gadgets spent here. Additionally, so I have used these phones for quite some time. At least mine was used for about two and a half years or so. If you can see, I tried customizing the thing a bit. I added a red keyboard, a red I don't know what this bezel cover is on the bottom, and a red screen display cover. This is not a touch screen, by the way. So I was quite intrigued, pleased, and proud of this little phone, and I love the QWERTY keyboard. My wife stopped using hers about a year in, or a year and a half in. I was quite stubborn and I didn't want to give it up, and I held on to it as much as humanly possible, but I think it was 2.5 years until I gave it up and switched to Samsung Galaxy X Cover 2 Android smartphone, which I don't see here on this table, but anyway, that was a gift, so it's kind of fitting it's not here. So moving back to the BlackBerries, I have here an interesting duo. I have a BlackBerry 9000, I believe. Let me just open it. So this is the BlackBerry 9000, and this one is the BlackBerry 9900 or 9900. These are both bold units, so they're pretty much the flagships of their day. And even though I have lusted I had lusted over these types of phones about more than 5 years or so, until I had given up on the idea. By the time I could have gotten them, they were still pretty expensive, but well, they were rather long gone in terms of availability, and they weren't new, and I didn't like the examples I could get. I thought they weren't worth the money they were being sold for. So sad to say, I didn't get my BlackBerry phones until early this year, when I paid only about, I guess, about 5 euros for this one, and about 10 euros or so on this one. So that brings us on a roundup total of about 380 euros. And you can add there this BlackBerry Pearl, which, well, I tried to review, but it had some issues and it's not a great example. This one I know for sure I haven't paid more than 5 euros for. And I should have another BlackBerry, though it's not available here. That one I had deemed beyond rescue, and I'll get to those types of phone in a minute. So by this point, I guess you could say I spent about 380 euros on these gadgets alone. Now moving on to another important part of my collection. Here they are, my iPacs. Now iPac Pocket PC has a special place in my heart as a, well, gadget lineup. I'm not going to elaborate on this subject too much. Suffice it to say, all of them are featured on my channel, and you can see an in-depth view of them if you browse my my pages on my YouTube channel. So I'm just gonna stack them here and speak about them a bit. I have two iPac 4700s, which I'm quite proud of. Important to say, these were made by HTC. They were actually built by HTC and not HP, and they're pretty cool. They're sleek, and well, they have a modern minimalistic design, and they're metal, I believe magnesium, but that's a whole nother story. And actually I paid for this one in, well, around 2013 or so. I paid around 50 euros, and for another one I just paid 10 euros, though these are pretty rare devices. And I guess you could say these are the more valuable items in my collection. I'll put them aside right here, and so those are, I'll call them round up 60 euros. And these two, again, I tried using them with my wife when I replaced my HP 4700. I bought an HP 214, the successor. I used it quite a lot for games and other activities that don't require data connection. I was sort of into this geeky iPack stuff. As you can see, there's a lot of scratches on the screen protector due to the Jawbreaker game. And I also purchased one for my wife, though she didn't quite use it as long as I have. I paid around 50 euros for these each, so approximately 100 euros, with 160 for the 4700 series, 100 plus 60 for the 4700s. That's about 160 euros, with around 380 euros. That makes for a total of, let's figure that out a bit. 380 plus 160, that's 480, 540 euros. That took quite a lot of time. I'm not proud of that number. Additionally, I got this 1940, I believe, Pocket PC, which I only paid a pittance for, about 10 euros. So let's call that 550 euros. And another HP iPack, which sadly doesn't work, though it is an interesting device. It's a GPS unit rather than just a Pocket PC, as you can see by the landscape layout. And again, I paid around 12 euros for this one, but though it sort of has trouble booting up and I don't have the time or the skills necessary. I've forgotten quite a lot in terms of modding these devices. So again, about 20 euros or so. Let's call it an even 560 euros. And there's an additional 2780 series, I believe, which I'm quite proud of and has a special type of story. Excuse me. And if you want to find out more about this device, there's also a video on it as well. It's sort of a weird, quirky device with a strange add-on. And I believe it was used by the French Ministry of Defense, which I have nothing to do with, again. And I state that quite transparently. Please, if anybody finds out anything about this device and considers it dangerous, just let me know, and I'll do the right thing. Let's say it like that. I'll give it up or whatever. So I paid for this around less than 10 euros, but let's call it an even 10 euros to round up the sums. So that leaves us to about 580 euros by now. Additionally, I paid quite a pretty penny for this iPack messenger, voice messenger. This is also featured on my channel. I'm quite proud of this one. It's looking quite well, though it has some marks on it, nothing too bad. I paid about 20 euros, so we're at 600 euros. By the way, we're moving into the phone realm of iPack gadgets, but please try to be patient, and I'll try to explain as I go along. Now this is the iPack Data Messenger, and this is quite a nice device. It has a QWERTY keyboard, and it's actually a prototype device in a almost mint condition. Actually, it is mint if I come to think of it, if I come to analyze it a bit. It doesn't have any significant scratches or marks on it. And this one, well, I paid only about 12 euros for it. Let's call it 610 euros by now with all my gadgets. And additionally, I also have an iPack 514, which I paid, well, about 12 euros for it. So let's call it 625 euros. And well, I have another pair of iPacks here. These are the entry-level RZ1700 series, which for the both of them, one of them has a non-functioning touchscreen, but for the both of them, I guess you could say I paid around 15 euros, which in total rounds up to 640 euros for the iPack and the Lumix and the BlackBerry side of my collection. Another pocket PC, which is sort of interesting, but not to me anyway. I bought it because I purchased it as a duo with the iPack 4700, and well, actually I didn't want it, but the seller just gave this and the iPack 4700 at a very low price. I calculated them both at 10 euros. So this makes the total up to now 650 euros. And let's get back to the basics with some interesting phones. Nokia 3310. Now, I can't really add this to the price, since this was my wife's old phone at some point in her phone history. I don't know what she paid for. I don't have a working battery, so this one, I'll just consider it a bonus. However, I am also a huge Siemens aficionado or weirdo, if you like to call it, and I have here a whole bunch of Siemens phones, some of them rare, some of them not so rare, but all of them quite interesting, and I'll just place them here on the counter and just mention quickly the value of each of these phones. At some point in my phone history, I had more examples or different versions of this family of phones, but not so much now. Let me just put the battery back into this one, into the Siemens M55, and go along with the presentation. So, in quick succession, SL45 purchased this year at 30 euros. EMT50 purchased for about 5 euros, so 55 euros, no, 35 euros, sorry about the interruption. This one, this is an S68, I don't remember exactly when I purchased it, but I remember quite well. It was only 100 lei or 20 euros, so 55 euros by now. This one was about 5 euros, so 60 euros. This is an S45i, a good example, although a bit scratched and scuffed, but still a nice one. The ME45, again 5 euros, so by now we're reaching 55, 60, 65, and the SP65, which was more expensive at that time. I paid quite a lot more, I don't know, let's call it 25 euros. It might have been less, but anyway, I digress. So 65 plus 25, that's 90 euros. This one was around 30 lei, so 96 euros, and I got this one for, I remember quite well that I only got 2 or 3 examples, but only one of them was actually in good working order, so these ones were about 4 euros. You can't really imagine how cheap I got them. So anyway, let's round up and call this 100 euros, and if I'm remembering correctly at the beginning of this video, we're about 750 euros, but I might be mistaken at this point, so hopefully you'll understand if I have some, some discrepancies in the video. Again, this is just a sum up of what actually I have purchased over the years, and not something very accurate. I might have some things missing in here. I might have other gadgets hoarded up at other places. What I'm trying to do is actually to drop some conclusions, how much I have spent on these gadgets, and well, you get the gist of it. This one is just a Samsung flip phone, and I presented it on the channel at some time before, but this one again was my wife's phone at some point, purchased new, I believe right after the Nokia 3310, and I only paid, I don't know what she paid for it, I don't know what why I'm mentioning it, so again, consider this one. So 750 euros at this point, and I have a bunch of other phones here that are quite interesting. I have two Nokia N-8s, one of them is fully functioning, this one, the black one, and the blue one is actually in good condition, although it sort of freezes when boots up, so they look okay, they're pretty rare. I would say I paid around 20 euros for the pair, so that makes it to 770 euros for the collection at this point. And also I have a Mio Pocket PC, which I'm not really a fan of, but I just bought it for the channel. This one was 5 euros, 775 at this point. A bunch of HTC Desire phones, which all in all were less than 30 euros, but let's call it an even 800 euros at this point. And well, a bunch of Nokia N73s, which some of them are in working condition, others are not, so there are three of them. There's three of these phones. This one is the best looking, though that's not really much. So I paid for these about 15 euros. So all in all, we're looking about 815 euros so far. This one is another interesting phone. This is the HTC Diamond something or other. I have it on the channel. I remember spending around 10 euros on this, so we're up at about, I don't know, 830 euros so far. This is my wife's LG, again a phone purchase from new. It's in good condition. It's the Optimus model, the Optimus 8X I believe, or 2X, I don't remember, I don't recall correctly. And this one we'll disconsider as added value. Though this is an interesting quirky and not QWERTY but half QWERTY device from HTC, and I paid around, I don't know, 5 euros, but anyway. All in all, considering the other phones that I have purchased, I guess I'm looking at 850 euros spent into this humdrum mashup of old, quirky and obsolete tech stuff. Would I be able to recover that money? All of them? In no way. That's rather disconcerting, isn't it? Anyway, I guess I do have some strong pieces here, so I guess if I were to be really trying to get some money back out of this hobby, I guess I could sell some of the iPads, the Blackberries and the Lumix cameras for close to 300 euros in total, maybe 400 if I'm being optimistic, but that would take quite a lot of time. By the way, the Siemens SL45, this is quite the collector's piece, so this I would have no trouble selling. But anyway, let's call it an even 400 euros, which is, well, it's less than half what I paid for these gadgets and devices, but you have to keep into consideration that I also use some of them as dailies, even the iPads, as in the past I was quite adamant about keeping my technology separate, my entertainment on one device, my connectivity on another, like the smartphone or the phone or the classic feature phone before them, and the camera is separate. What I plan to do with these gadgets, well, I plan to seal them off in a box. Maybe some of them I'll give away, but for one thing's for certain, I will never get rid of the iPads, the Blackberries and the Lumix cameras, and neither the Siemens phones. So basically what I'm saying is that if you want an HTC phone to feature on your channel and you want to propose me some sort of swap or exchange, even if temporarily, I'm game for that. But that is not the whole story. Coming up in the next episode, I'll speak about the less than successful endeavors when talking about purchasing collection items. So stick around and see you in the next one. And remember, I buy, hoard and collect weird, quirky and obsolete tech stuff so you don't have to. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.